This video is quite short and I want to discuss very simply the difference between an Avinox motor and a Bosch motor. And I want to discuss mainly why I don't like the Avinox and why I like the Bosch. The best way is to kind of demonstrate this. So what I'm going to do, currently riding a Bosch motor right now. Now I don't have a DJI motor with me, but I did ride it the other day. Basically what I want to show you is the difference. So this is the first bit where you see how the DJI motor responds to my pedal inputs. It's not based, look at this hill, right, watch this. Look, I've got no pressure on the pedals, I haven't even shifted gear, and the bike is just going up the hill on its own. This is not cycling. And I am in turbo mode, I have to admit, so full power mode. And if I put my feet on the pedals, I'm just going full speed up the hill. And out of the box, I'm not putting any effort in, nothing at all, zero. Like my feet are moving, my legs are moving, but I'm not doing anything. This is very similar to the Go Bow, exactly the same. I would like to call it the Asian tune. So the companies from Southeast Asia that develop these motors, they do good work, they do good effort, but this is their idea of software tune. It's the same on the cheap bikes, it's the same on the expensive bikes. The idea is the pedals are an accelerator, they're not there to pedal. Yes, I'm in turbo mode. Let's put it in eco mode. Feels a bit better. Trail mode though, off we go. A little bit less push, but still. It's smooth, there's no doubt, it is smooth. But look, I'm just riding up the hill, doing stuff on my phone. Like, why not, no? So here's a bit of loose, a bit steeper than normal. It's zero effort. Really, no effort. I am not doing anything here. The bike is moving. This has got quite short cranks on it, so, you know, I mean, look. Right, I'm pedaling and I'm not putting pressure on the pedals, but I am spinning them and the bike kind of goes along on its own. Now there's another motor that does that, and that's the Go Bow in turbo mode. It doesn't do it in trail mode. Now I'm about to show you what the Bosch does. So here I am on a hill very similar to that, and I've got the motor maxed out. So I've got it set 750 watts, maximum dynamic response, maximum motor response. So it's pumped as the DJI motor was that I tried. Now, I'm in exactly the same ride position and I've got my feet on the pedals. Now, if I stop putting pressure on the pedals, but I keep turning them, you see the bike slows down. Now, I'm trying to give zero pressure on the pedals, just like I was doing with the Avinox motor. Zero pressure, the bike slows down. Now, if I just increase the pressure slightly, but not the cadence, so I just press a little bit, that I'm doing now, very subtly, the bike maintains its speed. Now, if I press harder, but I keep the cadence, let's just switch into a gear, and I keep the cadence, the bike motor doesn't actually really change much. It stays quite linear. So if I increase the pressure pedal a lot, the bike speeds up, and also the cadence speeds up as a consequence. Rather than if I try and increase the cadence, hang on a minute, let me just try and shift into a gear where I've got a higher cadence. So if I increase the cadence, so I'm really increasing the cadence here, the bike doesn't speed up. It stays at a similar pace. And that's the main difference between Avinox and Bosch. But not just Avinox, also Go Bow is out there. Normally those motors without any torque sensors. DJI has a torque sensor, but it doesn't feel like the software tune is particularly about cycling. Now, if I ride a non-e-bike, which I just did yesterday, the non-e-bike feels very similar to the Bosch motor. So if I increase the pressure, obviously the bike moves forward more and it speeds up. So that's why I say very clearly that the DJI motor is a cadence-based software. Let's get to another little bit of steep and I'll just demonstrate that again. By the way, I'm in Rinchiner, so for those who want to know, one of the most amazing places to ride. And don't forget, the channel is sponsored by Lee. As you can see, I've got all their safety gear on, not quite properly because I'm just demonstrating this on an uphill. So thanks to Leah. So I've got zero pressure on the pedals. I'm just spinning them, and the bike, I've got to keep some kind of pressure on the pedals. If I don't keep a little bit of pressure on the pedals and keep varying it with my own leg power, the bike comes to a stop. Now that does not happen with the DJI motor, it just keeps on moving. Let's talk about this Cadence torque concept. So here, this motor is more torque based. So if I press hard, the motor responds immediately. Now what I can feel there, which is different compared to the DJI, is that I press on the pedals and the motor responds. Now when I'm riding the Avinox, I press on the pedals, doesn't really do a lot. I speed up the cadence and the motor responds. I'm just gonna ride back up to the road. I'm really not putting any effort in here at all. Like, if I put effort in, it improves the cadence. It's like the power pushes you and improves the cadence. It's not torque operated. It's like, if I put harder on there, I don't really feel any increase in torque, which is interesting. Just feel, I mean, boost mode is fun. This is boost mode. It's a completely different sport. This is motorbiking. That's the big difference between the two systems. Now, one could argue that form of software that you have on the DJI Avinox is basically not really a cycling software. It's way more tuned for mini Sauron lazy riding, essentially lazy riding. Like, just spin it and who cares, you just get there and you just back off. Now, when I went for a ride with Alan Muldoon from MBR, when I saw the Avinox for the first time, I noticed he wasn't really straining when he was riding up the hill. And yes, admittedly, I'd just been off a crash and it was one of my first proper rides on a bike. But I was having to strain a little bit on the Bosch because I was actually pressing on the pedals. Now, he was in auto mode, and now it makes sense to that experience what he was doing and what I was doing, because all he was doing was spinning the pedals and the motor was taking over, doing most of the effort, not the rider. And they do have a higher multiplication factor than the Bosch. So the Bosch have set it at like 360% or 420, I think, if you've got the race motor. So essentially, the less pressure you put in, it's not linked to cadence. Cadence makes a difference, but it's not the priority when it comes to the bike responding up the hill. So here I go again, pressure, the cadence increases, but the cadence increases because the pressure on the pedals increases, not the other way round. And the fact is that, why did no other YouTuber pick up on this, or no other bike journalist? In fact, a couple of German guys have, and now the Italians have. And all the original content makers who were paid to do their content, don't forget, didn't mention it at all. They didn't pick up on it. They've said that high cadence gives you more power, but they haven't described how that works in reference to everything that we've been used to so far. Now, for me, this is the proper way to ride. It's very connected to normal mountain biking and normal cycling. It's not about the amount of effort, it's the way the effort is pushed into the cycle. Avinox motor, you simply don't need any effort. I mean, it's very simple. You can just ride the thing with zero effort. Now, I'm really actually quite disappointed in how no one else managed to pick up on this. And it's a software tuned thing. It can be fixed, but at a firmware level. Now, I have tried varying, obviously, all the settings in the apps. On the Bosch is impossible, and on the Centrics and on the other motors I've tried, it's impossible to mimic the DJI Avinox way of transmitting the power compared to the DJI onto the Bosch. Now, the DJI onto the Bosch, depending on who you talk to, you can change it in the software. The kind of software settings you need to change are, to be honest, not very obvious. Out of the box, and this is the point, most people don't really use the apps as much as you'd imagine to tune the motors. The average everyday person doesn't do that. They're just blown away by the power, which out of the box maxed out on the DJI, so you just whiz off and you leave it at that. Why would you turn it down? No matter how hard you fiddle with it, it always feels like the cadence is marginally in front of pedal pressure or torque when you're riding, whereas not so with a Bosch or a Centrix motor. And the same can be said true of the Go Bow. Now, for those of you who don't believe me or think I'm just here trolling, which sometimes I am, but not, you know, not without, let's call it, facts in the way. I spoke to one of the marketing people from Go Bow, for example, about this, and they agree. That's one of the software settings, and they said, hey, we can probably change this. That's an important point to remember when it comes to software. It can be changed, but it's not out of the box in that way. And that's one of the reasons I don't like the Avinox motor. Basically, it feels like a motorbike because you just spin it and off it goes. And although you've got all these settings, they don't want you out of the box to add power. They want you to take it away. And I think that's important because out of the box, the Bosch system is add it if you need it. So you keep that cycling experience on the bicycle. And I think the cycling experience is really important because as much as the noise and the hype about DJI motor is all about more power, we should be, you know, sticking it to the man, sticking it to Bosch, being in a competition. It's not about that. It's about trying to keep cycling, because we are verging on some of these bikes now with motorcycle style experiences. Software tune of DJI Avinox could be classed more as a cargo bike tune, where you don't really put much pedal pressure on, you just spin the pedals a bit and the motor takes over because you're shifting a huge amount of weight. And that is one of the arguments in their discussions as a group when it comes to trying to decide what is a bicycle and what is the right power levels for the laws and the rules. Often the cargo bike thing comes up. Essentially what you've got there is the DJI motor for cargo bikes is essentially what you've got there. But they've just transferred it onto a normal bike, and it's totally unnecessary. Because when you ride a Bosch Urban motor, so the same motor but with a different software baseline tune, it responds more similarly to the DJI. You just pedal it and the motor just powers you along. But you've got to go ride an urban bike to feel that. On the mountain bike, it's way more closer to the cycling experience than the DJI motor. The DJI, they've just literally taken an urban bike and just shoved it on a mountain bike, maybe an urban cargo bike. So that's basically the feeling. Anyway, hopefully that was an interesting little discussion. I will say this. Quite a few people have been writing to me saying that I am actually correct on what I've observed and tested on all these motors, because it's their experience as well when they've tried them. They just didn't have it pointed out to them. That's where I have an issue with all those other motorbike journalists that don't seem to understand what they're talking about. They should go back to riding normal mountain bikes and leave the professional testing to the proper e-bike journalists that know what they're doing. No, I'm just pulling your legs, guys. But seriously, you know, I do think that there needs to be a more comprehensive understanding of how the pedal pressure and the cadence works when it comes to explaining the two motors together, or the two motor standards. Everybody so far has missed that, bar 2 or 3 people that I know who work in the bike industry. But I have been told, even by a company, that yes, you're right, that's how it is, but you have to go into the software, you have to fiddle with it and get it to how you like, and you can achieve that. But I don't think that should be like that. I think it should be out of the box, set like a Bosch, set like a Centrix, set like a Shimano, set like all the other motors, because they are, and they have been seeking this experience of cycling experience to keep the bike a bicycle. And not just an accelerator-driven motorcycle, which is what, unfortunately for me, the DJI Avinox feels like in most situations. I will have another one of those on test soon. I'll give you some more feedback on fiddling with the software. And hopefully you've enjoyed this video. I'm sure there'll be a few people out there who are going to leave some trolling comments, and please go ahead. I enjoy it. It keeps the engagement up there. And yeah, anyway, thanks for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and we'll see you on the next video. Bye, everybody.